Good evening, I'm Zoe Spinnett, and this is Old News. Our top stories tonight: the 4.5-hour rampage of a monstrous elephant named Jim through the streets of North London, and a thief so cunning and agile he escapes the strong arm of the law whilst simultaneously entertaining the neighbours. But first, a warning to practical jokers everywhere. A most melancholy and painful occurrence took place at Halifax on Thursday last week. It appears that at the house of a wealthy inhabitant of the town, or rather more correctly speaking, on the outskirts of the town, some amateur theatricals were taking place. When the evening's entertainment was over, a lad, in mere sport, dressed himself in the costume of one of the attendant sprites and sprang onto the windowsill of the neighbour's house. The appearance he presented was of a most hideous description, and a little girl named Gussie Ward was so frightened that she went into hysterics, and in the hours afterwards she was in such a state of fear and trembling that but little hopes were entertained of her recovery. We regret to add that she expired on Monday morning last. We hope this case will act as a warning to all those who indulge in practical jokes, which are in most cases both foolish and mischievous. An extraordinary occurrence was witnessed in North London on Wednesday. A monster bull elephant named Jim, who is said to have reached the age of 25 years, and for which many years has been one of the features of Mr. George Sanger's circus entertainment, has been for some days at Mr. Sanger's depot in Woodford Grove, East Tottenham. On Wednesday afternoon, Mr. Turner, manager of the depot, took this elephant and 2 Indian llamas for a walk through the streets. The llamas were led by boys, and Mr. Turner was leading the elephant with the usual hooked stick used by keepers attached to one of the animal's ears. When outside the manor house, Finsbury Park, the elephant, which is usually said to be of a most docile disposition, became restive, breaking away from his keeper, and dashed at almost breakneck pace into Finsbury Park. The animal rushed straight on, and neither railing nor fence proved any obstacle to him. Those bars which he could not step over, he wrenched up or broke down, trumpeting all the while. He then turned his attention to the bandstand, which he charged, doing considerable damage. The keepers found plenty of people willing to assist in the chase and capture of the beast. It was no difficult matter to catch up with him, but it was quite another thing to secure him. Presently leaving the park by the gates at the other end, Jim ran full tilt into the Blackstock Road, followed by several policemen and a large crowd of men and boys. All efforts to divert the animal's course proved futile. He would not allow his keeper to come near him, and when a crowd collected in front, he quickly cleared a passage with a few vigorous strokes of his trunk. He evinced a sportive disposition to pry into every gate or door that was most amusing. Next, he trotted nimbly into the stable of a fishmonger, unceremoniously knocking down a man who went to the protection of a horse, and here his keeper endeavoured to secure him and fasten his feet with a stout chain. But Jim was forewarned, and divining his keeper's purpose, swept all before him with his trunk, and again made his escape. Proceeding thence at a smart trot by Highbury Vale, the elephant found his way into Newington Turning, and then into the rear of the houses at Highbury Park. A stout wall fell to his ponderous blows, and 6 other walls followed suit, while fearful havoc was played with the gardens. Espying an opening into the road by the side of one of the semi-detached houses, the elephant made for it, walking through a wooden fence and over the garden wall. Thence he roamed at his sweet will through various streets into Clifford Park, where he damaged everything that impeded his progress. By this time, feeling dry, he strolled leisurely to the river in Church Street and refreshed himself with a long pull of the cooling waters. The pursuers had by this time waxed strong and warm, and great excitement prevailed. The police procured ropes, and several frantic endeavours were made to secure the monster with the aid of a lasso. But as the keeper pointed out, nothing could be done, as no rope nor chain, unless properly adjusted, could hold him. The wisest course, he counselled, was to quietly follow him, because the less he was molested, the less damage he would do. Passing Newington Green and still causing general consternation, the monster walked down Matthias Road into Kingsland. A young man, bolder than the rest, tried to divert the animal's head from the bridge. The brute resented this and slashed the young man with his trunk. The tip of the trunk caught the man's right hand and tore it open. Another blow from the trunk caught him in the stomach and sent him flying along the road for 8 yards. Trumpeting loudly again, the elephant took the path by the riverside and in a truly marvellous manner steered his way through a number of narrow passages to Spring Hill, Clapton. There he walked through the fence and into the grounds of Upper Clapton Cricket Club. A stout iron gate which barred the way was lifted bodily, with its supports, out of the ground and laid on one side. Stamford Hill was reached a little later, and the elephant took the main road to Tottenham. Here it played fearful havoc with the grounds of the Drapers' Arms houses, and in spite of all attempts to divert its course, he proceeded to a field on the St. Louis estate. After walking about for some time, the elephant allowed his keeper to chain his front legs together, and then he went home quietly. Phew. It was 2:30 when he ran away, and 7 o'clock when he was captured. Mr. James Sanger apologises for the erratic behaviour of the elephant Jim. It is quite a mistake to suppose that Jim is a blackguard animal given to running amok. On the contrary, his conduct during the 25 years of his life has hitherto been irreproachable. The truth is that Jim was slightly disappointed on the day when he lost his temper. He was vexed at not being able to take part in the gorgeous circus procession in which he is so conspicuous a figure. He knew that another elephant was carrying the magnificently apparelled Indians and trappings that ought to have been on his own back, and he lost his head. And finally, an incident which would delight the heart of Mr. Harris Ainsworth occurred at Townsend, Banbury, on Thursday morning. About 5 o'clock, Police Sergeant Morgan of the County Police and Police Constable Willis of Grimsbury proceeded to Townsend to apprehend a chimney sweep named William Cox on the charge of stealing a slop and a number of other articles from a field in Grimsbury. Cox lives with his father, and on hearing the police make inquiries after him, he made for the chimney and was seen to do so by the officers, who at once went to the fireplace and were in time to get hold of the fugitive by one of his feet. They tried to pull him down, but they only pulled his boot off, and finding himself free, he began the ascent again, and was soon out of their reach. The police, however, were not to be outdone, and they at once lighted a fire, expecting to dislodge the occupant of the chimney. But they had reckoned without their host, for Cox had succeeded in getting out of the chimney, and when he found that his pursuers had endeavoured to smoke him out, he proceeded to pay them back in their own coin. On reaching the roof of the house, he took off his coat, placed it over the mouth of the chimney, and sat down upon it. And so effectual was this method of stopping up the chimney that the police were hoist with their own petard and had to leave the house. When, eyes watering, they got to the outside, they found their man sitting on the roof laughing at them. The police asked him to come down, but he declined, and indulged in no end of chaff at their expense. For some hours they watched him, but as he persistently refused to leave his perch, they got tired of waiting and went away, and when they returned, the bird had flown. He was seen during the day on the road, it was believed, to Birmingham. His proceedings on the rooftop were witnessed by a large number of people whom he entertained with snatches of songs, accompanying himself by beating on the roof with a stick. The chimney is an old-fashioned one, and as Cox is a sweep, the probability is that he was well acquainted with the way up. All of him that found its way into the hands of the police was his hat and the boot that came off in the chimney. And that's it for tonight's programme. We'll see you again, same time, same place. I'm Zoe Spinnett, and this has been Old News.